in the Fox Theater more than 3 decades ago. That's entertainment.
Good evening. The tradition continues. Welcome to Rich's Fashionata, our 32nd consecutive annual edition of Fashion as We See It.
Saul Kent, fashion director at Rich's, the man who gave Atlanta Fashionata, the head of the Fashionata family.
Over the years, we have explored many circuitous routes in our attempt to make sure that clothes and fashion were much, much more than just clothes in fashion.
There was Fashionata before Saul Kent in 1945 in the Municipal Auditorium. For the next 2 years, Rich's publicist Frances Bemis produced it in the Erlanger Theater on Peachtree. In 1947, Mrs. Bemis left for New York. 2 years later, Columbus, Georgia native son Saul Kent left his job at J.A. Kirvin's Popular Store to start his 4+ decades as fashion director at Rich's and the creator of the Fashionata family. And then he met Irene Friedman.
I met him in New York, and he asked me out for lunch. It was my birthday, actually. We had a very short courtship, and we were married in a very short time. I came down in 1949 to be married, and I was married in Columbus.
We called him Papa, and we would say, Papa, you know, this or Papa that, because he was sort of like a father to all of us. He would get on stage with us and show us exactly what to do.
Sometimes impish, often irreverent, and hopefully entertaining.
He also got on stage at a microphone and lectern.
And always theater.
To read his scripts and give his mannequins consistent advice as they passed.
When each mannequin would go on stage, he would just say, "Be divine." And they were.
In 1957, as Irene graced the Society front page, Rich's resurrected Fashionata for the first time in 10 years, and Saul oversaw it for 35 more.
I did Fashionata from 1967 until 1983.
Saul presented it in several places before settling down in the 70s at the Fabulous Fox.
Fashionata was the social event of the season.
Easy to see and hear why, as Saul named famous names and paraded their work. Saul did it all. Chose the themes, wrote the scripts, picked the music, the fashions, the models, the paths they took on and off stage, and even dance steps when needed. More than enough for one person, you might think. Not this person.
Well, he directed all the fashion at Rich's. And don't forget, other than Fashionata, there was the Lovett fashion show that he was very famous for.
He began it in 1956 and called it a mini Fashionata. He did everything at the school he did at the larger venues, but not the same shows. They were written, produced, and directed by Saul. His last Lovett show was in 1991, the same year as his final Fashionata, but he is not forgotten there.
There is a seat in the theater for Saul, as well as a scholarship, an art scholarship in his honor, because he did all these fashion shows at Lovett. And all the Lovett ladies just loved him.
A lot of people did and still do. There are also many people who may not know they had benefited.
They chose a charity every year.
In 2013, the Bremen Museum offered a return to Rich's with history, artifacts, and narratives. In 2014, it presented a reminiscent evening, Be Divine. The fashions from 3 decades dazzled on a runway again.
We gathered together as many of the ladies that we could that did Fashionata.
And there was an unexpected, albeit familiar, voice.
We promise you a finale, and we intend to deliver. Herewith, our salute to the impudence, the chic, the possible shock, the wit, the extravagance, the entertainment, the authority, all the things that add up to Rich's Fashionata, fashion as we see it.
When I heard his voice for the first time, I almost fell off the chair. Truly, I wasn't aware that they were going to play his voice.
And it actually sent a shiver up my spine and tears to my eyes to hear his voice. It was just indescribable. It was really something.
When they showed him at finale dance across the stage, the entire audience went berserk. I mean, it was like, you felt like you were really there and it was happening again.
Saul did his finale footwork the final time in 1991.
When Saul retired, it was a completely different ballgame. It was just not what it was.
Fashion had been a very big part of Saul Kent's life. The only thing bigger? Family. He and Irene raised 2 sons in this elegant home, David and Paul.
I am the older brother.
Paul had no idea. Paul is my eldest son. Had no idea what his life was to be. He graduated the University of Georgia, and today is a very successful businessman in his own right. David knew he was going to be a doctor from a very young age.
My favorite memory of my dad would have to be of his excitement when I got into medical school.
It was just a very lovely, easy family life.
He was a great dad.
She was a good mother. She was very protective. She was a great role model.
Well, they were dear boys, and I think they've grown up to be rather nice guys. They truly are.
He was all business, but he had a soft way about him in terms of his heart. He had his work and then he had his family. He had my brother and myself and my mom. No, he was a family guy.
When I look back and look at, I think I was truly blessed with being able to have parents like I've had.
And his brother David?
He's a good man. We're totally different. Growing up, we weren't that close. As we get older, we're closer. And I really am thankful for that.
Retirement gave Saul 10 more years with his family and 10 more years to indulge his extraordinary manual artistic skills, leaving a very tangible legacy.
I also think he took great pleasure in the needlepoint that he used to do.
Needlepoint became Saul's life after a while.
And he would sketch out his designs on cocktail napkins.
He did that day and night.
You can imagine when you first start needlepointing, the basic design that's over on my right shoulder was pretty simplistic.
And when he first started, he would have told you he was awful.
It was just amazing to see the progression from the late 60s to, before he passed away, with what he's done.
People didn't forget Saul, and haven't. He was the subject of many stories and articles in the 90s. He and Irene were prominent in social circles. In 2011, he was named one of 50 who made Atlanta. And he is the unseen but no less present guest at something Martha Jo started.
Each year, I put together a luncheon, and I have dubbed it Luncheonata, and it's, of course, named after Fashionata. And the former models and fashion writers and fashion directors all attend. And it's a way for these women who were so close and worked together for so many years to stay in touch.
And photogenic as ever, Irene. Paul treasures another photo of his mom and dad.
When they would go out at night and they would come down to say goodnight, they were dressed to the hilt, looked like $1 million, and you could tell that they really loved each other. They always smiled.
That picture rests on Irene's dresser with other treasures.
Well, he was a very kind and very generous gentleman. And we just had a good time. It's been a difficult road since he's gone, truly. He died in 2001. And there isn't a day that really goes by that I don't think of Saul or say good morning to him sometimes. He has his photograph is on my desk, and I blow him a kiss every day. Well, I think he's hovering. He probably is hovering right now, listening to every word I say.
Happily, there is a sense of permanence. The young will stay young, and the beautiful will always remain beautiful. Living well was the best revenge. And as we see it, the most fashionable revenge.